And there, three, two, and one. Well, Mayor Wiza, welcome back. Mayor's Monday here, WSAU.com. We have all sorts of places where you can get your interactions with the mayor, but we certainly appreciate that you are choosing to fly the friendly skies here on WSAU with us.
Fly the friendly skies. I like that.
Indeed, indeed. I just got back from vacation, so I heard that from Delta a couple of times. You
Okay,
got to
bring me
get
back
down
some
on
of those
that one.
Biscoff cookies. Those things are
I did
awesome.
not. I did
Oh,
not.
all right. Well, we're done here then.
Um, all right. Well, in that case, later.
All right.
All right. So, I first off, I guess that's the first lie that you're telling here, ever actually. But you need to practice because you're gonna be telling some more on a special walk that you have coming up in downtown Stevens Point. I saw this press release, and I said, I don't know that there's any other mayor in Wisconsin that can pull this off besides Mike Wiza. Tell us about this.
Well, it's funny because the Portage County Historical Society has been doing some of these historic walks or pub crawls, or we got a murder tour coming up on October 18th, where you can hear about infamous murders in the old Stevens Point town over the years. Now, this isn't something that happened like in 2000. This is 1800s and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But if you want to see some of the storied history and past, the Historic Society's been doing these walking tours. Well, I thought it was kind of fun. I went on one of them, and let's just say I embellished a few of the facts. And there were people there going, "Oh, really?" I'm like, no, not really. Just kidding. So Aspirus approached me and said, hey, do you want to do something maybe to get people up and out of their chairs? Maybe a walk or bike with the mayor for a lunch or whatever. And I said, you know what? How about if we do this fact or fiction walking historic tour? So we get the exercise in there. We get people getting up and out of their chairs over lunch. We're going to have a brown bag lunch. And then I'm going to do my own version of the tour downtown, talking about some of the actual things that happened in history and some of the things that may not have happened in history. And at the end, we're going to do a little quiz where you have to guess whether it was, fact or fiction. And maybe we'll even have a little bit of a prize or something for the winners. Because when they brought up the idea of the walk, I don't know if you understand this, but when George Stevens actually came to this area, that's one of the first things he did is he started somewhere about where City Hall is right now. He mentions in his memoirs that there was a giant white pine on the site. And as he walked towards the river, he was overcome with all of this emotion, this vision, if you will, of a city, a thriving city on the banks of the Wisconsin. And he walked to the area that he landed on, finished up his walk, was actually the point in the Wisconsin River that is Stevens Point. So the white oak, of course, or the white pine rather, has long since been cut down. It was actually used as part of the lumber mill to build the first brothel in the city of Stevens Point.
Oh.
That, of course, is long gone too, but the walking route is actually still there. And this fact or fiction walk will follow the same path that George Stevens took in 1767 before he claimed Stevens Point. That was
And
all
then
crap.
and I was just gonna say I'm gonna pick out two that were false in there.
Yeah.
And the two that I would have picked would have been the brothel and the fact that Mr. Stevens was so overcome with emotion and having this vision of the city. I'm gonna say that he just laid there and took a nap.
Yeah, he may have. So I can tell you that George Stevens did exist. That's actually based in fact. Stevens
Right.
Point did have brothels. Those are based in fact. There may have been a white pine near City Hall 150, 170 years ago. I don't know that. But yeah, almost everything there was embellished. And it's one of those things that, yeah, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. We'll let you decide. And that's going to happen on Wednesday, October 5th. And we're going to meet right here at City Hall. Oh, gee, you put me on the spot and I just forgot what time it was. I think it's noon.
So
or is
over
it 11?
lunch, yeah, 11:30 or noon would make sense.
Yeah, it's online. I've shared it on my Facebook page. I actually forgot what time it was. So if anybody wants to participate, we'd love to have you. Just contact my office or go see that Facebook event, and that'll get you the correct time. We're going to start here at City Hall. We're going to end down on the public square, and you will hear things that are true and things that may be not as true.
I like it. I like it. There's no other. There's no better way to get out, get some exercise on what's certain to be a great fall day in central Wisconsin, and learn about your city and have fun in the process. I like it.
Exactly. We got a
Well,
few other
maybe
things
that.
coming up.
Mhm.
The very next day, while it's not a walk, nor is it part of our history, it will soon be part of our history. We're having another public meeting in relation to what we're doing with Business 51. As you know, it was very contentious. We've got a referendum question in August that now requires us to go to a public vote for every transportation project greater than $1 million. And I'll talk more about that later.
Mhm.
But in continuing on with the Business 51 project, October 6th at 6:30 at Spash's Auditorium, we're going to have a public presentation and question and answer session. So we're going to give anybody and everybody the opportunity. We have the designers there, AECom and engineers, Department of Transportation representatives, city staff, and we're going to try and get everybody's questions answered. Some of the questions that I've heard were, if we don't do 2 lanes, will we get grant money? The answer is we don't know, but it doesn't preclude us from getting grant money. There's always that, it's a sliding scale chance, right? The more boxes you check, the more likely you are to get a grant. Do we need to make the roads 4 lanes wide and acquire all this property to meet the minimum recommendations? Probably, but we don't need to do the recommendations. We can do the minimum requirements. So the requirements are way different than the pie in the sky recommendations that some people have heard about. We're going to try and get that all out in the open. If anybody has any questions, because we're only scheduling this for about 2 hours, I'd love to have your questions ahead of time. And then we can do a paper, frequently asked questions paper, and hand those out at the meeting so we can get as many questions answered as we possibly can. We're inviting you to attend. It's open to the public. We're asking people to be respectful and come with constructive questions or comments, not that's stupid, why are you doing it? That doesn't help anybody. We're trying to find a solution here, so we're exploring options. Again, October 6th, that's next Thursday, or this Thursday really, at 6:30 at the Spash Auditorium. And then finally, I know I'm cutting you off here, Michael, but the November ballot, November 8th, is going to have several referendum questions for Stevens Point residents. 4 of those are transportation related. One of them is just a advisory referendum question on whether or not the state of Wisconsin should legalize adult recreational marijuana. That's advisory and not a terribly big deal. But the 4 that I need you to know about are all transportation related. 4 questions are, one is road reconstructions. Every year we plan to do a certain amount of road, rebuild it from the ground up. So actually underground up. When we do a reconstruction of a road, we make sure that the utilities underneath get replaced and updated as needed. So we don't have to tear the road up again in 5 or 10 years to replace those utilities. So a total reconstruction takes everything on the road from the utilities all the way up to the surface and rebuilds it. We do a certain amount of those every year, and those are budgeted in our taxes already. So we have the project this year for road reconstructions that, again, won't adversely affect our property taxes because it's already budgeted. It's already included in the taxes that we pay. We just need the okay to do it. The next one is road resurfacing. Road resurfacing is just what it sounds like. We take a layer of the road, we peel it off, and we put another couple of inches of brand new asphalt on there. That extends the life of the road quite a bit, and it's part of the normal routine maintenance that we do every single year. Again, already budgeted for, so it won't adversely affect our property taxes. It's already budgeted for. The next 2 projects are actually economic development related. We work with developers from time to time, and occasionally they need infrastructure. They may need water and wastewater utilities brought in, or a road, or in this case, a rail sidetrack. The company that we're working with needs use of rail. And while CN runs right across there, to make it useful for those businesses, you have to put in a sidetrack, meaning you're going to pull some of those cars off the main line, allow them to be loaded or unloaded, and then reconnect them to the main line. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the trains that are stopped blocking the intersection, and it goes back
Oh
and
yeah.
forth and back and forth. That's what it's doing. It's swapping cars. But we're going to do this out in East Park Commerce Center because we're pretty sure we have a development that's going to need it in the very near future. So we want to get permission in advance. And that is for a major development, several, $20-30 million development with about 150 jobs. We will not be constructing it if the deal happens to fall through, but I'm optimistic that we're in good shape here. So we want to get prior authorization for that. Again, we're not going to do it if it doesn't pan out. And more importantly, it still isn't going to affect my property taxes because it's paid for through what we call tax incremental financing. That means the development's income, the taxable income on the, or taxable taxes that they pay on the development go to pay the debt service for us borrowing. So it has no impact on your personal property taxes at this point. The other one is the extension of Badger Avenue, and that will go from Double H north and eventually reconnect with Badger Avenue north of Highway 10. Again, this is for development. We have people who are looking at building out there. We wouldn't put the road in until we need it. However, we need that prior authorization. So those 4 questions will be on the November 8th ballot. Keep in mind, for City of Stevens Point residents, it's a 2-sided ballot. So make sure you get both sides of that taken care of. And we will we'll see how things go. Hopefully people understand the need for these road repairs and economic development. But the only reason we're going to referendum right now is because of that other referendum that happened in August. I've already talked to some of the Southside business owners, and their president has vocally supported those referendum questions. If you have any questions on them, by all means, call my office. Contact Director Badoon over at the City of Stevens Point as well. What else you got, Michael?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just important that, I kind of took a step back there just to let you make sure you address your citizens to get that information out
I
there. Because
appreciate
again,
it.
it's been, as you mentioned, this has been really contentious. And of course, the irony in this is this all stems from a street named Division Street. So I
Yes,
guess
it
my
does.
question to you would be, are you trying to lower the temperature right now in the city? Because no matter what people are saying on one side or the other, this street and these projects have to get done. This isn't going to go away because one side got their way. So right now we need to find a way to come and work together to make sure we have something that everybody can live with, correct?
And that's exactly what it is. Roads, of anything that we deal with here, roads are the least political decisions that we have. There should not be political arguments over roads. There's differences of opinions, but it really seems that this has politicized a road. And now that you mentioned it, I'm really thinking that we should have a device in front of council to rename that street, maybe by renaming it Unity Street or Compromise Lane or Let's All Get Along Boulevard, that magically everybody will come together. We have to understand, though, that there's no perfect way to do this road. There are a few wrong ways to do it, but there's no perfect way to do it. And not everybody is going to see this project as a solution. There's pros and cons, and we have to weigh those out for the benefit of the entire community, not just us, because there are people in Chicago that use that road, and we want to make sure that it's functional for all users, even if you don't get to vote on it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And this is going to be, as you mentioned, something that will have long-term impact, because as you mentioned before, with tearing a road up and redoing the water, redoing any other cable infrastructure that is under there, you don't want to redo the road, tear it up again in 5 years because a water main has broken. You want to get it done. You want to get it done right the first time, so that way the next time it gets thought about, neither yourself nor I are physically present on this earth to hear about it.
Right. Well, and that's an important point too, because we can make a decision We can make a quick decision and say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. But if it turns out that we're wrong and suddenly there's this major flaw in the road design, we can't just tear it up and put a new one in and spend another 50-60 million dollars to do that. That's not going to happen. So it's important that we take the time to talk this out, see what works, what doesn't work, and try and find a solution that works for a majority of the people, that doesn't adversely affect those that may be in the minority, and try and find a solution there. It's not going to be easy, but we have to do it. So let's suck it up and get to work.
Absolutely. And we look forward to that meeting, and encourage everybody who's got a stake in this to come out, make sure you get your voice heard. My suggestion to you would be, and I know this probably is not possible because it's going to occur on the campus of the Stevens Point area senior high school. So we don't want to encourage such things, but sitting down with the mayor over a beer on this, having a beer at District 1, maybe, and talking about this, drawing it out on the back of a napkin. If it comes to it, that might be the way to get this done.
We could do that too. We could have root beer. That's completely okay. Point Brewery is the third oldest continually operating brewery in the entire country.
Predates the city.
It does. As a matter of fact, George Stevens, the reason he came here is because he heard about the brewery, and he wanted some of that Point special that he heard so much about, all the way in, I think he was in West Africa. That's where he was born and raised. And he came here to grab a beer. And after he took that historic walk, he pondered this, and lo and behold, we have the city of Stevens Point.
That's a lie.
I got nothing.
I have taken the tour twice. That's a lie.
that is very much a lie. But the brewery was here before the city, and
it was by about a year.
It's the only brewery that I'm aware of that has a direct line, direct pipe from the brewery to one of our city offices. Bet you didn't know that.
Ooh.
Right?
I think I've seen that pipe.
Yeah, and if you're interested too, the evening of October 5th, this Wednesday night, the Portage County Historical Society is having a dinner pairing. They're calling it Lagers and Loggers. So they're pairing things with dinner with beers, and they're going to talk about the logging history right down on the riverfront. So there's probably still tickets available. You got a couple of days to get those. But I want to remember October 18th is that historic murder tour down Main Street. That's when you're going to want to get involved with too.
That's my kind of thing right there. Well, Mayor Mike, we always appreciate the time. Always appreciate the good cheer as well. And again, we will look forward to seeing everybody on Thursday night down at the Spash Auditorium to see where this discussion goes and see what we can get done with this project.
I appreciate it, Michael. Thanks.